Hello everyone, this is the Great Pumpkin speaking and welcome to this new army report about Ogre Battles 64. While I was off screen, I managed to get through the first chapter of this game and managed to assemble my army, so each of my characters are actually a tier 1 class now. I gotta admit, I got kinda lucky with my army so far, namely because I didn't have too much trouble turning enough soldiers into Amazons and fighters for the most part, so I didn't have too much trouble this way. So without further ado, let's head over to Dardanel's training here and start off with Cornelia. So we're off against a group of magic user, so we're gonna do this. This group is fairly simple, mostly 2 knights in the front row and 3 archers in the back row. This is mostly to showcase the power of the archer class for the female line of class. It's pretty darn powerful. I know that the female tree is mostly known for its magic users, but I feel like archers are a really good replacement for them for the most part. So they're actually pretty darn powerful and fast to boot. There we go, and they'll pretty much destroy the enemy back row as well. Did you see those wizards? We did some pretty darn big damage on them. But that's gonna be it for this group, so let's move on to the next one. Most of the groups I have right now are looking pretty close to what I'll want them to be once we're done with this, although we're missing a few key components which we'll get in chapter 2. We'll start here with Benedict's group, if I'm not mistaken. So we're off against a wizard, a skeleton, and a ghost. Here we have 2 Earth Dragon in the front row, and a Dragon Tamer in the back row. Not such a great group at the moment. I wish I had more elemental power with it, unfortunately I don't. So yeah, that's gonna make it a little difficult. It would be a tiny bit easier if I could get a Needle of Light for that Dragon Tamer. Unfortunately I won't. So really that's all there is to that group. My dragon got put to sleep and that's pretty much it. I wouldn't have won that fight usually. Although, since they don't have much offensive power, that's pretty much it. I may end up moving those dragons to another group to make it a little easier on myself later. But for the time being, that should suffice. Oh, it was Mary's group. Benedict is the next one. So here we have our next group, consisting of 3 Doll Masters as well as a Thunder Dragon up front. I kinda messed around with the idea of putting the Thunder Dragon in the back row to add us an elemental attack, although I feel for the time being we might benefit more from having the dragon in the front row. Basically, my 2 Doll Master to the right will actually attack twice, as opposed to the one in the back row who will only attack once. So it's not a great one, especially against those gremlins in the back row which are putting me to sleep. Still, in time, they'll be pretty darn powerful. Not a lot of people actually use Doll Masters or Enchanters, which is a real shame. Some of the dolls in this game are pretty darn powerful. Although I'll admit that you don't have a whole lot of them, unlike say swords or whatever. So yeah, that's one of their weaknesses. Still, they're pretty powerful. You'll see them once we get a little further into the game. Next up is Orville. Orville's group is a tiny bit different. This one is essentially composed only of casters. I have 2 wizards in the back row, a sorceress, and 2 witches in the front row. The reason I actually have witches at all is because witches have basically the best intelligence growth out of all the female class and have pretty darn good evasion. So by keeping those as witches, I'm hoping that they'll grow to be able to tank a little in the front row, as well as turn into some pretty darn awesome wizards. Well, sirens if you will. Witches have some of the highest growth in intelligence in this entire game, so actually you can have them... how can I say? You can have them use Draconite books to devastating effects. And what you just saw now, all of my 2 wizards and my sorceress combined together in order to do a combo attack. So that's actually pretty darn cool. I'm hoping to make it so that most of my wizards will be able to do combo attacks when we're done with this, so that's cool. Fortunately, I appear to have gone through one cycle too many. Oh well, that's fine. I guess that gave you an idea of what this would look like. One of the weaknesses of this particular group is that it can carry much items, which won't matter once it gets powerful enough still, so... Even if I only need to heal it twice if it destroys 4 or 5 units, I don't really care. So next up, Anderson. So, basic enemy group again. This group is fairly basic. Basically 2 Hawkmen that I got off, I think it was Cradle Canyon or something, might be Militia, as well as Beast Tamer, who will serve as a Beastmaster later for another group, and a Griffin in the back. I actually don't really want to keep this group too long. Unfortunately, I'm missing a couple of pieces, which I'll get in chapter 3 and 4 if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, still right now it does well enough. Once it gets weak enough, I'll have the means that I need to actually make them sufficiently powerful. One of the things I'd like would be to slay a number of Earth Dragons in order to get Axes of the Worm, which are elemental axes that the Hawkmen can use. Unfortunately, I can't do that right now. So, next up, Kasha. Another fairly basic group, and one of the few times you'll see me actually using a cleric. There's a reason for that. Unfortunately, we're missing a couple of pieces for this to happen. One of our problem right now is that that Valkyrie on the back is supposed to go with Magnus. And because I'm missing a unit from chapter 2, I can't actually have this group unleash its full potential. Another problem is that I mostly have Fencer on the front row, which means that they are pretty much unable to do elemental damage until later chapter. That's gonna make it a bit of a drag toward the end, hence why I added a Valkyrie to the group. Shouldn't be a problem later on though. Still, they hit pretty hard. For the time being at least. I usually don't particularly like Cleric. I feel like they're a complete loss of damage and can be replaced entirely by items, so... I don't feel like being invincible is worth the loss of an offensive character. And finish, we'll have Emma's group. Emma's group is similar to another one, although their purpose is a little different. So this one, basically, we have an archer, a witch who's going to be used to be turned into a main caster later. I've got another Valkyrie who is supposed to go into Magnus's group. And we have 2 Dollmaster in the front row, which will eventually turn into Ninja Masters. It's a decent enough group. I feel it's a bit lacking in the offensive department, but given time that won't be too much of an issue. Pretty sure that was the last cycle. Oh well. Let's make them go through another one for the kicks. Man. And that's the end of that. So yep, to finish with what we have, we're pretty much on point for what we want to do at the time for the time being. I kind of feel like I've got a bit too many witches, but I've kind of got an objective in mind for them, so there's not a whole lot I can do about that. And on that, I think that's gonna be it for the time being. Thank you for watching, everyone. This was the Great Pumpkin. You all have a pleasant time now. Bye bye!